Hello, I'm Aaron from Little Angel Theatre, and today's story is Dick Whittington. A long time ago, there was once a poor boy called Dick Whittington who had no parents to look after him, so he was often very hungry. He lived in a little village in the country. He'd often heard stories about a faraway land, a place called London, where everyone was rich and the streets were paved of gold. Dick Whittington was determined that he would go there and dig up enough gold from the streets to make his fortune. One day, he met a friendly wagoner who was going to London, and he said he would give him a lift there. So, off they went. When they reached the big city, Dick couldn't believe his eyes. He could see, horse carriages, hundreds of people, great tall buildings, lots of mud, but nowhere could he see gold. What a disappointment. How was he going to make his fortune? How was he even going to buy food? After a few days, he was so hungry, he collapsed in a ragged heap on the doorstep of a rich merchant's house. Out of the house came a cook. "Be off with you," she shouted, "you dirty ragamuffin!" And she tried to sweep him off the step with a broom. At that moment, the merchant arrived back at his house, and being a kindly man, took pity on poor Dick, carried him into the house, and ordered his groom. When he was fed and rested, Dick was given a job working in the kitchen. He was very grateful to the merchant. The thing that made Dick sad was that he had to sleep in a tiny room at the very top of the house, and it was full of rats and mice that crawled all over his face and tried to bite his nose. He was so desperate that he saved up all his pennies and bought a cat. Meow. The cat was very special. She was the best cat in London at catching mice and rats, and after a few weeks, Dick's life was much easier because of the clever cat had eaten all the rats and mice, and he was able to sleep in peace. No longer after Dick heard the merchant asking everyone in the house if they wanted to give him things they thought he could sell. The ship was going on a long voyage to the other side of the world, and the captain would sell everything on the ship so they could make some money. Poor Dick, what could he sell? Suddenly, a thought came to him. "Please, sir, will you take my cat?" Everyone's burst out laughing, but the merchant smiled and said, "Yes, Dick, I will, and all the money from the sale will go to you." After the merchant had left for the city, Dick was on his own again with the mice and rats crawling over him at night, and the cook, became really nasty in the day because there was no one to stop her. Dick decided to run away. As he walked away, the bells of the church rang out and seemed to say, "Turn again, Dick Whittington, 3 times, Lord Mayor of London." Goodness gracious gosh, thought Dick, astonished. If I'm going to be Lord Mayor, I'd better stay. I'll put up with the cook and the scurry mice and rats, and when I'm mayor, I'll show her. So back he went. Across the other side of the world, the merchant and his ship had arrived at their destination. The people were so pleased to see them and were so welcoming that the merchant decided to send some presents to their king and queen. The king and queen were so delighted they invited them to a feast. But believe it or not, as soon as the food was brought in, hundreds of rats appeared as if by magic and gobbled it all down before they had a chance to eat it.
"Oh dear,"
said the king.
"this is always happening. I never get a chance to eat my apple pie. What can I do?"
"I have an idea," said the merchant. I have a very special cat which has travelled all the way with me from London, and she will gobble your rats faster than they've gobbled your feast." Sure enough, the king and queen's joy appeared. The next time a feast was prepared and the rats appeared, the cat pounced and killed all the rats as quick as lightning. The king and queen danced for joy and gave the merchant a ship full of gold in return for a very special cat. When the ship returned to London, Dick was overwhelmed with the amount of gold the merchant gave him for his cat. Over the years, he used his money so wisely and did so much good for the people around him who work for him that he was elected Mayor of the City of London 3 times. But he never forgot his kind friend the merchant, who'd been so honest and giving him the money the cat had earned and kept nothing for himself. When Dick grew up, he fell in love with Alice, the merchant's daughter, and married her. They lived happily ever after.
Turn again, Dick Whittington, 3 times. Lord Mayor of London!
There, you were right, you see. Thank you for joining us for another story with Little Angel Theatre of Dick Whittington. Goodbye.